Why don't I flinch? Because the laws of science differ fundamentally from all other. My face.
Hi guys, welcome to Science in 5. In this video we're going to discuss the idea of balanced forces. A force is simply a push or a pull that acts on an object. Okay, so if the forces are balanced, what does that mean? What is this balancing of forces? Well, to understand this idea of balancing of forces, let's talk about the resultant. When a number of forces act together, they have this combined effect that they produce. We call this combined effect a net force or a resultant force. Okay, so if the forces become balanced, in other words, they're balancing each other out, effectively cancelling each other out, that means the resultant force they produce is actually 0 newtons. So when forces are balanced, they produce a resultant force of 0 newtons. How does this work? Well, let's suppose here's an object. Okay, it's being pulled eastwards by a force of 50 newtons. That's the east direction. How do we balance this force of 50 newtons? Well, we could add another amount equal to this amount, all right? Because if we have got 50, to balance 50, you need 50. They must be equal, okay? But how are we going to add the 50? Should we add it in the same direction? If I was pushing an object and my friend also pushed in the same direction, the forces would combine and they would actually increase the size of the resultant. So to balance this force of 50 newtons, I need to apply a force of 50 newtons in the opposite direction. Now, the forces are cancelling each other out. They're negating each other. So in this case, now I can see that, so the resultant of these two forces is going to be what? Well, in general, in physics, when forces act in opposite directions, we subtract them. They are subtracting each other. So the resultant here must be 50 minus 50. That gives me a 0 resultant. So now these forces are balanced. Okay, so when forces are balanced, it means they're equal in magnitude and they're acting in opposite directions. The same force or the same amount of force, but acting in opposite directions. That's what it means when we say, that's what it means technically to say, the forces are balanced. Okay. All right. Makes sense? Okay. Now, what if I had an object, a box? Right, here's my box. And then I say, on my box, there's a force of 30 newtons going in the east direction. There's another force of 50 newtons going in the opposite direction. You can clearly see that in this particular case, these forces are not balanced. There is a smaller force going in one direction. There is a bigger force going in the other direction. In fact, we can calculate the resultant of these two forces. How do we calculate the resultant of the two forces? Well, they are going again in opposite directions. So if the forces are in opposite directions, we're going to subtract them. I normally say, just say the bigger force minus the smaller force. 50 minus 30 gives me a resultant of 20. Now, where does this 20 newtons go? Well, it has to go in the direction of the bigger force, the 50 newtons. So this object should move in the direction of the bigger force. So this is a 20 newtons in the west direction. Okay. So that's how the object's going to move. Now, if I wanted to balance these forces, because I'm talking about how would I balance this? Oh, I've got a force of 20 newtons west. So this force of 20 newtons west is not balanced. But what if I add another force of 20 newtons, but in the opposite direction? I would be able to balance this force. So what I will need to do is to add a force of 20 newtons east. 20 newtons east. Now the forces are balanced. How do I know that the forces are balanced? I can check. Let's quickly check. Well, we said if forces go in the same direction, in opposite directions, we subtract. If the forces go in the same direction, we add. So the net force that's now acting here is now the 20 plus the 30. These are all going in one direction. They will subtract the 50. Okay? And this will give me 50 minus 50. Now it's giving me 0 newtons. So now the forces are balanced. Why? Because the forces going in one direction, the 30 and the 20, are balancing the 50 that is going in the opposite direction. It's a very interesting idea of balanced forces because we use it a lot in physics to solve problems. Even when we're still introducing the idea of forces, where we don't want to go into the idea of laws, Newton's laws yet, or talk about components of forces, we just want to add to understand this idea of balanced forces. It's important to appreciate that the basic idea means the net force that's acting is 0. If you get this idea, then you can always use it. All right, that's it. So that's what balanced forces technically are. Now that we know what balanced forces are, we can now use this idea to calculate another force. We shall call that force a normal force. Okay? Or even to determine the force that will cause an object to be in equilibrium, to be in some kind of balance. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next time around where we do more problems now, when we actually solve problems using the idea of balanced forces. Ciao, ciao. Hi guys, welcome to Science in 5. In this video, we're going to discuss the idea of